Part 1. The Encounter. The morning was filled with the usual bustle as Maya Simmons walked confidently down the city sidewalk. Known for her activism and a strong sense of community justice, she was on her way to a rally promoting racial equality and awareness. Maya, a young black woman, had dedicated her life to uplifting her community, becoming a respected figure for her resilience and dedication. Today, however, she would encounter something that tested her spirit in a way she had never anticipated. As Maya neared the city square, she noticed an officer watching her with a hard glare from across the street. Officer Jack Hayes was known for his short temper and dismissive treatment toward those he deemed troublemakers. Spotting Maya, he crossed the street with purposeful strides, his gaze sharp and challenging. "Excuse me, miss," he called out, his voice laced with authority. Maya paused, surprised by his abrupt tone. She glanced around, noticing the curious looks from passers-by, who had also registered the officer's aggressive approach. "Yes," she responded, calm and unshaken. "Is there something I can help you with, officer?" "ID now." He didn't bother explaining. Maya was taken aback by the demand. There was no explanation, no cause. She kept her voice steady, aware that her every word could be misinterpreted. "Can you tell me why you need to see my ID, Officer Hayes?" Maya inquired. The officer's face darkened, his eyes narrowing as he saw her request as defiance rather than a simple question. "I don't have to explain myself to you," he replied, his tone dripping with irritation. Maya felt her patience slipping, yet she kept her composure. She knew how easily situations like these could escalate, and she had no intention of giving him a reason. "Officer, I am simply exercising my rights to understand why I am being stopped," she said, careful with her words. The onlookers seemed to hold their breath, sensing the tension rising between the two. But Officer Hayes was not in the mood for a discussion. His frustrations, his unchecked biases, all coalesced in a single impulsive action. Before Maya could react, he raised his hand and slapped her, the sharp sound of his palm meeting her cheek echoing in the quiet street. Shocked gasps escaped from those watching, and a stunned silence fell over the square. Maya stumbled, feeling the sting, her hand instinctively rising to her cheek. Yet she stood her ground, lifting her chin in defiance. She wasn't just going to let this happen. Not without consequence. Part 2. The stand. Maya stood rooted to the spot, her face burning from the sting of Officer Hayes's slap. But her eyes remained steady, locked onto his with a fierce defiance. She wasn't about to let him intimidate her. This was more than just an attack on her. It was a blow against her dignity and against the very community she fought to protect. A murmur rose from the crowd. More people had gathered, whispering in shock and disapproval. Maya could feel their eyes on her and knew they were waiting to see how she'd respond. But as she looked around, she didn't see mere onlookers. She saw allies, friends, and even strangers who shared her outrage. The incident had touched something deep within them, and their collective energy fueled her. Slowly, Maya took a step forward, closer to Hayes, who was now visibly uncomfortable. He hadn't expected such a response, and his confidence faltered as he noticed the growing crowd surrounding them, some pulling out their phones to capture the scene. "Officer," Maya began, her voice carrying a clarity and authority that demanded attention, "I will not allow you to treat me or anyone else this way. You think your badge gives you the right to assault me?" Her words resonated, each syllable driving home the fact that Hayes had crossed a line. Hayes's face reddened as he shifted uncomfortably. He wasn't used to his authority being questioned, especially not by someone like Maya. You think you can talk back to me? He spat out, although the strength in his voice had diminished. I'm the law here. No, Officer Hayes, she said, her voice unwavering. You are a servant of the law, and right now you're an example of how the law can be misused. The crowd had grown now, and murmurs of support for Maya were breaking out all around. A few voices shouted, "Stand your ground, Maya," and "We're with you." Hayes started to realize he was losing control, and in his panic he tried to turn away, as if escaping would absolve him of his actions. But Maya wasn't done. "If you think I'll back down, you're mistaken. This isn't just about me. It's about everyone here who's felt threatened or oppressed." Her voice was strong, and as she spoke, her conviction seemed to reach each person in the crowd. The officer's arrogance began to crumble. A flicker of panic crossed his face as he realized the cameras were recording his every move, and people were ready to stand as witnesses. But it wasn't until another voice spoke up from behind him that he fully grasped the gravity of his actions. "Officer Hayes, that will be enough." The voice was calm but commanding, and Hayes turned to see the police chief herself, Chief Sanders, a woman known for her unbending sense of justice, stepping forward. Her face was stern, her gaze fixed on him with undisguised disappointment. Maya felt a surge of relief mixed with gratitude. She had never expected such a powerful ally to step in, but she knew this wasn't over yet. The chief approached her, a look of empathy softening her expression. "Maya, are you all right?" Chief Sanders asked, her voice sincere. Maya nodded, though she could still feel the ache in her cheek and the emotional weight of what had just happened. "Yes, I'll be all right," she replied, "but I need justice, not just for myself, but for everyone who's experienced something like this." Chief Sanders turned to Officer Hayes, who now stood pale and visibly shaken. "Officer Hayes, I'm suspending you from duty, effective immediately. We'll be conducting an internal investigation, and I assure you, this will not go unanswered." The crowd erupted in applause, their voices a powerful declaration of solidarity and support. As Officer Hayes was led away, Maya felt a weight lift from her shoulders, but she knew her journey didn't end here. This was just one victory in a much larger fight. As the chief turned back to Maya, she placed a hand on her shoulder. "Your courage today made a difference, Maya. You're not alone in this." Maya took a deep breath, feeling the strength of everyone around her. She had faced down the abuse of power and emerged victorious, not just for herself, but for everyone watching. With newfound determination, she knew this was only the beginning of her stand against injustice. Part 3. A New Dawn. In the days that followed the confrontation, Maya found herself at the center of a growing movement. Her bravery had sparked a fire in the community. People who had silently suffered from abuse of power were finally finding the courage to speak out, their stories flooding social media and local news outlets. What had happened with Officer Hayes was no longer just her story. It was a rallying cry. The video of the incident had gone viral, and with each passing day, more people expressed their outrage over the injustice Maya had faced. Messages of support poured in, not only from her town, but from people across the country. They saw her as a symbol of resilience, a voice against oppression. Maya felt the weight of responsibility, but she was ready to bear it. At a town hall meeting held a week after the incident, Maya stood at the podium before an assembly packed with supporters, reporters, and local leaders. Chief Sanders had requested Maya to speak, acknowledging the need for systemic change within the police force and the entire community. As she faced the crowd, Maya took a moment to collect her thoughts, feeling the weight of their expectations. Her heart raced, but she knew she had to speak her truth. Thank you all for being here, she began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. What happened to me could have happened to any of us. It's a reflection of a much larger issue we're all familiar with, a misuse of power and a disregard for dignity. A hush fell over the room, her words resonating with each person present. We're here because we want change, we want accountability, and we want a community where everyone, no matter who they are, can feel safe and respected. She took a deep breath, glancing over at Chief Sanders, who nodded in support. But this isn't just about holding one officer accountable. It's about addressing the structures that allow these abuses to happen in the first place. The audience erupted in applause, their energy palpable. For the first time, Maya felt the powerful impact of her voice, not just as a personal defense, but as a call to action for lasting reform. After the meeting, Maya and Chief Sanders sat together in a quieter corner of the hall. The chief had been deeply moved by Maya's speech, and she wanted to show her support. "Maya," Chief Sanders began, her voice gentle but determined, "I want you to know that I'm committed to change. It's clear we need new policies, new training, and new leadership in places where abuse has gone unchecked for too long." Maya nodded, feeling a renewed sense of hope. "Thank you, Chief. I want to work with you on this. I want to make sure our voices are heard and that real reform happens." Together, they started discussing a plan, one that involved not only revising police training, but creating community programs focused on building trust and mutual respect. Maya had ideas about implementing neighborhood outreach, where officers could engage with residents beyond the formalities of their roles. She wanted to foster a sense of community where people felt protected rather than policed. In the months that followed, the initiatives Maya and Chief Sanders introduced began to reshape the community. Officers attended workshops on cultural sensitivity, participated in dialogues with residents, and even volunteered in community service activities. The change was gradual, but it was happening, and Maya was there every step of the way. One day, as she walked down the street, Maya was approached by a young girl who looked up at her with admiration. "Are you Maya? The one who stood up to that officer?" the girl asked, her eyes shining. Maya smiled, kneeling to meet the girl's gaze. "Yes, that's me. But I didn't do it alone. I had a lot of people helping me." The girl grinned, a spark of confidence lighting her face. "One day, I want to be like you. I want to stand up for what's right, too." As Maya continued her walk, her heart swelled with pride. She knew her journey wasn't over, but seeing that spark in the young girl reminded her of the impact a single voice could have. She had started this fight for herself, but it had grown into something much bigger. A movement for justice and equality that would echo for generations. The confrontation with Officer Hayes had been painful, but it had also been the catalyst for change, not only within Maya, but in the hearts of everyone who believed in a fairer, kinder world. And as she looked toward the future, she knew she would keep fighting, standing as a testament to resilience and courage. The end